So, here we are, talking about the worst evil team. I've seen a lot of people saying that Team Star is actually well written, and I don't want to be the kind of guy who tries to convince people they're wrong. So if you like Team Star, that's fine and cool. No need to watch this video. Unfortunately, I did not have the same experience, and today I will explore why. In the Paldea region, the only evil team we face this time is Team Star. Though this is not a return to truly evil teams, as they are once again more of a nuisance team than an actual threat. Our first encounter with them is when we find a couple of new recruits bullying an unknown student into joining them. It seems that they have been ordered to do so in order to meet a recruitment quota, and go on to bully the player as they intervene. After beating them away, Nomona reveals Team Star is a group of truant students, known for kicking up trouble. Because of this confrontation, we are shortly contacted by Cassiopeia, who wishes to put an end to their troublesome ways. Next time Cassiopeia contacts us, she adds the location of the Team Star bases to our map, telling us we will need to take down each of the 5 bosses. When she hangs up, she won't contact us again until we are approaching a Team Star base. These are recognizable by the team's flags and the barricades made from stolen school property, some of which are even blocking roads. Once we arrive near the first base, Cassiopeia explains how the operation works, and Clive makes his first appearance. Due to Team Star's rules, once we challenge and beat the boss, they are forced to stand down, and the grunt should follow shortly after without their leader. Cassiopeia has already issued the challenge, so all that's left to do is for us to beat the bosses ourselves. Clive also joins the operation, saying he is a friend of ours and wishes to settle unfinished business. Even if you wanted to ignore the base, they have literally barricaded the road, so either way we go to meet the first boss. However, we are stopped at the gates by a couple grunts, despite literally being sent here to complain about the blocked road. Anyway, they immediately become aggressive and threaten us before we can say a word, once again showing us Team Star is just kind of a bunch of jerks. Fortunately, one of the grunts asks us if we are the kid who challenged Team Star, and when we confess they threaten us again, but at least it makes sense now. Unfortunately, once we beat them, that's not the only obstacle, as once we enter the base, the grunts swarm us 10 to 1, trying to overwhelm us with sheer numbers. Gang up on you if you will. Only then can we face the boss of the base, Giacomo, who comes at us with a freaking car! However, we're able to come out on top, and in doing so, get our first glimpse of who Team Star really are. In Giacomo's flashback, he discusses how he was planning to make new rules for Team Star to follow with the big boss, due to their growing member size. He is hesitant though due to his previous overzealous time as a student council president, and his rules cause him to be widely despised. But after some encouragement and reassurance he has grown from the other bosses, he decides to trust himself and write the code. After a flashback, Clive approaches Giacomo and asks why they don't just disband Team Star and come back to the academy since they are facing expulsion, and Giacomo explains they are waiting for the big boss to return. That's all we get from Giacomo, so the next base we visit is the Shida squad ran by Mela. As we approach the base we run into Clive where he reveals his motives. After hearing rumours of Team Star's bad influence, he gave the order for Team Star to disband or all students involved would be expelled. Now the deadline draws near and he wishes to try and figure out why Team Star refuses to disband and the truth behind the rumours. On reaching the base we are once again stopped by a grunt at the gates, who once again immediately threatens us. They only realise we're an actual threat after they already threatened us. Anyway, he runs inside once we beat him, and before we can challenge the base, Clive commends our performance, and a Char cadet from the academy, named Charlos, shows up, who seems to have business with the fire crew, and heads inside. Once we have beaten Mela, we get another flashback. It seems in order to prepare for Operation Star, she had evolved several Char cadet to power the Starmobiles themselves. It also revealed she was bullied by jealous classmates for being cute. After the flashback ends, we find out that Charlos came to see Mela herself. This is because they missed her and wanted her to come back to the academy. Clive then asks Mela about the rumours of Team Star plotting something while they remained holed up in their bases, and we get the first present-day name drop of Operation Star, while she laments nothing has changed since then. Next on our base question journey is Atticus. Once again we bump into Clive, who just explains his motives again. Then, outside the gate, we see a grunt scolding a child who wants to get in and speak to Atticus. When we approach, we are recognized by the boy, who suspects we are the one stirring trouble for Team Star, and then fights us in order to protect Atticus, calling us a villain in the process. Once we beat him, Clive pulls him aside to inquire why he has come to meet Atticus, and we head inside. With another boss beaten, we get another flashback. This is the earliest flashback we see, as the group has just got their iconic outfits, made by Atticus himself, and they seem to be made specifically for Operation Star. We also learn Atticus was bullied for his infatuation with anything old-fashioned, explaining the way he speaks and his affinity for handcraft and fashion. Afterwards, the boy from before and Clive approach. The kid explains that now we can build a solid idea behind why they are truant, but we still don't understand who the boss is or why they are missing. Fortunately, Ortega is next, and before we reach the base, we approach Clive, who expresses curiosity over who Cassiopeia is, and her motivations for disbanding Team Star. Stopped at the gate once again, we see Harrington as he relays the time for Ortega's next piano lesson, for which he will return for later. It's not exactly explicitly said, but I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Anyway, we end up facing him when he realizes we are the one who has challenged Team Star. Then he leaves once he is beaten, and we find out he was the old director of the academy before Clavel. Heading inside and beating Ortega, we get a flashback, just before mailers, that tells us Ortega invented the Starmobiles, and we find out he was bullied for coming from a rich family. We also learn that part of a Team Star's code, that they won't rely on their parents or bags of money to solve their problems anymore. Afterwards, we get the biggest exposition about the history of Team Star so far. While Harrington was the director of the academy, it had a serious problem with bullying, but he was too inadequate to recognize this, and so it just got worse. Therefore, Team Star, a group of bullied kids, came together as friends amongst the harsh environment. And eventually they came up with the idea for Operation Star, the day where they would challenge all the bullies in their new outfits along with their Starmobiles, and, in a show of force, put an end to bullying for good. Unfortunately, our final base is the strongest boss, fitting for the fighting type, Eri. Once again, Clive updates us on our progress as we approach the base, and then we find him at the gate talking to none other than Eri herself, who has taken post at the gate to protect her grunts from getting beat, but she is convinced by one of them to return inside once we show up. And after we head inside and beat her, we see her training Team Star for Operation Star in the flashback. It's only in the present that we find out why she was bullied. The grunt who was concerned for Eri's well-being at the gate reveals that she was jealous of Eri's popularity back in school, and coordinated the other students to bully her. But once Eri stopped showing up to school, they turned on her. And to her surprise, Eri is there to support her anyway. Now all the bases are cleared, all that's left is to confront the leader, who Cassiopeia reveals was them the whole time. And when we go to face them, we find out their real identity was Clive, who is actually Clavel! After we beat him though, he confesses he was just testing us. Whoever won our fight would confront the actual big boss. So we go on to face Once we beat her, we get the final flashback. And the rest of Team Star reunites and begins working alongside Clavel to make a school environment that is free from bullying and where no student is left behind. With all the bosses beaten, we can assemble a full timeline of what happened. Once Team Star was formed by victims of bullying, they had tried to push back against the bullies with Operation Star, but despite their preparations, they failed. Penny felt responsible for the failure, and so she disappeared, telling her friends to disband before she ghosted them. But they never blamed her, and they never gave up, so instead, they decided they would continue to grow Team Star until she returned, where they would face the bullies once again, and this time, they would win. That's why they were so defensive when we approached their bases. The grunts are just other victims of bullying, causing them to be defensive against any outsiders. And forcible recruiting is because of their desperation to go strong enough so that Penny will return, and they will be ready to fight back. But as they continued to train, Penny saw that their ambition to stop bullying had gone too far, and Team Star was no longer the answer. So together with us and Clive, we disbanded Team Star and brought them together to work with the new head director Clavel, who is ready to reform the school system to better protect the students. Except I lied! Operation Star? It was a resounding success! Thanks to their demonstration, the bullies ran away from them at the day of the confrontation and began dropping out. Even a year and a half later, Clavel states that there was no bullying at the academy. He is unaware in any shift that happened, as the evidence of Operation Star was hidden by the previous corrupt admin, and all the previous faculty resigned due to guilt over failing to handle the bullying themselves, including the previous head Harrington. Instead, the real reason Penny was absent was because she had volunteered to take the blame for Team Star, as the exiled bullied had complained about the incident and created a scandal for the school. Harrington sentenced Penny to 18 months of studying overseas. This was actually not supposed to be a real punishment, as he basically just sent her home to Gala hoping she could also use it to rest. However, due to Ortega's reaction, we can assume he never revealed any of this to Team Star's members. That their boss was just studying overseas for a bit, and would return in a year and a half. Penny also didn't tell them for some reason, despite her having no reason not to keep in touch. Now, the foolish decision not to share this information could be blamed for why Team Star decided not to return to the Academy despite Cassiopeia's request they do, as they wanted to return together. And they were unaware Penny merely continued her studying elsewhere. However, it does not explain the behavior beyond that. While I can accept they wouldn't want to return to school without their friend Penny, even if they did know she was studying abroad, and they felt Team Star had to stay together to stick by their friends, why was their next decision not to shut down the bases and just hang out together? They split themselves out as far as possible to keep these pointless bases running. Not only that, but the decision led to students, ironically like Penny herself, getting harassed by grunts trying to recruit them due to quotas? Who gave them a quota? If you want to be generous and claim that they can't be blamed for the grunts deciding to recruit more members, there is no excuse for authorizing the construction of barricades on main roads as they are right next to the bases, so they would surely be aware of them, or the fact that grunts at the gates are immediately so aggressive. I imagine most members were formerly victims of bullying, so the last thing you would want to do when greeting these potential new members would be immediately and aggressively turning them away. The writers clash with wanting to be the scary, aggressive evil team and this tragic victim narrative, but it can't have it both ways, especially when it refuses to acknowledge the mistakes they made, other than some unrelated violation of school rules, instead of the actual hypocrisy they enacted. No talk of getting carried away or the grunts being overzealous. Even before their actions after Operation Star, their code made no sense. Why would the anti-bully group have a code that when they are beaten, they must stand down? You know who'd want to challenge the leaders of Team Star? The bullies! Their plan was that if they got beaten by a bully, they would immediately be forced to give up and surrender. It's insane luck that this stupid rule happened to work in their favor in the end, instead of getting them crushed by bullies early on and the problem worsening after that. Okay, this isn't related to Team Star, but Iono, I am calling you out, you power hacking son of a bitch!